Hello, I'm Carol Weakland. I'm an author, a healer, and a nature enthusiast. And I want to thank Amelia for inviting me to come on today to Politics, Books, and Me. I'm so excited to be talking to you about who I am, what I write. I'm just overall happy to be here. So, as I mentioned, I am a healer. Also, I work with Reiki, which is a healing modality which we'll talk about because that plays into all of my books. Then I'm also a nature enthusiast who absolutely loves nature, and that also plays into all of my books as well. Now, the book that I'm here to talk about today is called The Adventures of Maid Marian, Healer of Sherwood Forest. And here's a picture of it. It kind of doesn't show up very well because of the green screen background I have. But this just came out on December 24th. So it's a brand new release, very near and dear to my heart. And it basically, is looking at the story of Robin Hood from the Middle Ages, from Maid Marian's perspective. And this is something that, from the time I was a little girl, I was very, very interested in this story. And I love the love story within it. I love little girls love, that kind of thing. But it always struck me, Robin gets to do all this wonderful stuff, but Marian just gets to be a romantic figure. And it really was something that had been with me since I was a child. There's something more to her. What does she do? And so, over the years, there's been many takes on Maid Marian, and most recently, people making her into every bit as much an archer as Robin Hood. That does not speak to me in any way, shape, or form. I, as a healer, really saw her as a healer, someone that would come into Robin's group of what I call freedom fighters and create, this beautiful healing atmosphere where if someone gets wounded, she is here to assist. And that makes her a very, very important part of the entire group. And so this is what I've set out to do with this book. Now I'm going to be going through, the different questions that Amelia has written down here. I kind of started off a little bit about who I am. And let's see what made me write this first book. That's kind of what I was just talking about, how I felt Maid Marian needed a voice. She needed a vocation. And something else that's really, really important that comes out in this book, I think most people know the story of what's going on in that time period. You have a very corrupt, governmental system going on. You can look at it, as royal hierarchy. That is basically taking from the poor. And, you can say this is still going on to this day in many places in the world. Robin is coming in, as the antithesis to this, to, steal from those people who are taking from the poor, give the money back to them, empower them again. And Marian is coming into this as well. The book starts off with her literally running into Robin after many years of them being separated, not seeing each other. He's been off, with the Crusades. And suddenly she is catapulted into this, life that he is living on the run. And she's being chased as well. So it's, a very interesting setup for her. And it's how she navigates this as one person, in particular, one woman, how she can literally make a difference in a time that is very corrupt and dark, and literally bring in feminine perspective, feminine empowerment to create light. And basically, she also, I see her very much as a peacemaker in this group as well. So let me see what her next question is here. Amelia's next question. Well, I'm going to skip down to something that helps me in my writing process. She likes to know, is there something you do? For me, I absolutely love to have music playing in the background. And I don't think it will be hard for you to imagine, but I love Celtic music. I write about Celtic themes. But the Celtic music really, really speaks to me. And so I love having that play in the background. I also love having play the vibrational music, the Hertz music, for instance, 1111 Hertz. When you have that playing in the background, it is super inspirational, motivational, and it brings the energy levels up extremely high. So for example, if I am feeling a little tired that day, putting that on in the background really is a great motivational tool. And I highly recommend it to anyone, whether you're writing or just going about your daily process. Listening to that kind of music is super, super inspirational. All right, let's see here. Where did I get my idea for my book or books? I've written many books and we'll talk about them shortly. But for The Adventures of Maid Marian, as I mentioned, it was me really loving that story since I was a child. I am totally a nature enthusiast. And in those early days when I was little, seeing this story that takes place in the forest, where they're all animals in the Disney movie was very, very appealing to me. And that's where, I kind of fell in love with the story and the character and knew then that there was more to Maid Marian than met the eye. So it started in childhood for me and blossomed from there. Now, I'm going to kind of go further into that when I'm trying to get overall ideas for additional books or just for, continuing the writing process in a book. I spend time in nature. I mentioned before that I'm very much a nature enthusiast. In fact, I even teach classes about nature online. So literally, I find that if you go out into nature, you spend time walking through the forest, listening to the birds, seeing the animals around you. For instance, in Maid Marian, a deer plays a huge role for Marian. She's very much connected to this deer throughout the story. And I find inspiration in the different aspects of nature. If I'm finding I need an idea, I really don't usually need ideas for books. They come to me like that. But literally an idea about what comes next in the book, just going out, breathing deeply in the air, spending time with the trees, with the birds. Ideas just pop into your mind, into my mind, when I'm in a very relaxed state. And this is where the ideas for the books really come to me when I'm out in nature. And I highly recommend that to anyone that just needs to relax and go out and just find yourself in nature and see how it speaks to you. By the way, that's the name of the class I teach, Nature Speak. And I should mention now, you can find it on my website along with all my books at carolweakland.com. And that's CarolWeakland.com. And if you are interested in books, you go to the book section. The Adventures of Maid Marian, Healer of Short Forest is brand new, so it's under the Launch tab. And if you're interested in the class, Nature Speak, you can go to the Nature Guru tab on my website as well. Now, let me see what her next question is here. Do you try to be original or give the readers what they want? That is such a superb question. They're all good, of course, Amelia, thank you. This one I think is so important because so many writers feel that they have to write what people want, and then they try to catch a tab, out there by looking at social media, what do people want? Once again, that does not resonate with me. That is not what I'm about. I literally go out into nature and get what I consider insights from a higher power. And to me, when I'm writing those things, that's what makes my heart sing. And in turn, that is what I am here to share with people. So I feel it's very much about the writer, in this case myself, going out into the medium of nature and then receiving what is best for them, in this case me, to share with others. Great question. What kind of research do you do and how long do you spend researching before you write? Another superb question. For the Adventures of Maid Marian, I literally went to England multiple times. And this is something I've been doing for a long time. I'll talk about the other series that I wrote that takes place in England. I'll talk about that shortly. But for Maid Marian, that's going to places like Sherwood Forest, spending time in the forest, going to Nottingham, actually speaking to people, okay? The people that have lived there throughout generations that can relay information about that time period, about what, quote unquote, some people call legends, and just bringing that into the writing. Going into Sherwood Forest, literally seeing the trees, feeling what the energy feels like when you walk, literally placing your feet on the earth in that area, breathing the air. All of that is a part of what you write. And again, for me, the animals play such a big part in my books. And for Marian in particular, the deer. One deer in particular for her comes to her all the time. And as I said, she's a healer and she heals this deer. And then the deer is always there to assist her when she is in trouble. So it's very, very special kind of relationship. So I do believe in researching. The other series I'm just going to tell you about very quickly, because this is about the Adventures of Maid Marian. Is the Morgan of Avalon series. This one shows up a bit better. It's not all green. And this is a series about King Arthur and Morgan Le Fay. It's a romantic fantasy series. And I went to the UK about 13 times. It's a 3-book series and they're very lengthy, meaty, deeply involved books. And, I did a tremendous amount of research, walking the land everywhere from Glastonbury to Cadbury, up to Arthur's Seat in Scotland and Conway, Wales. And, you just name it, all the different historic, Snowdon, all the places that take part in the King Arthur Morgan story. Very quickly, this is a new take on that story where you have Arthur and Morgan literally as lovers, two people that are deeply in love, one very grounded, in the world, and the other very magical, coming together to create peace in war-torn times. That is in the Dark Ages, so it's a very different kind of time. And of course, Maid Marian is, in a sense, doing the same thing. She is the true love of Robin, to beings, masculine, feminine, coming together to create a kind of peace and great chaos in Nottingham back in the Middle Ages. She goes on to be the bright light, in that relationship that truly is kind of bringing that peaceful energy in. She's always also the one who says to Robin, Robin, look at what you're doing. Try to bring about a peaceful resolution. And of course, he just goes and does his own thing because he's Robin Hood. So once again, great question about going in and researching. I love spending that time there, breathing the air, walking the land, and talking to the people of that particular area. Okay, let's see, there's another page here. What part of the book is most fun to write? Well, when you think about, Robin Hood, he was kind of the character that loved to have a lot of fun when he was doing his quote unquote robbing from the rich and giving to the poor. So it's a great deal of fun to put the character of Marian into this, where suddenly she's catapulted into his world and she's watching for the first time to see what happens, where Robin and his men are literally stealing the clothes off the nobility that are chasing him. That would be Sir Guy of Gisborne. And then Robin comes back dressed in that garb. That is, it's highly amusing to see and fun to write. So just kind of getting into the feel of the fun that that character has in his quote unquote work. Okay, where did I come up with the title for my book? So once again, this was giving Maid Marian a voice. And in this series, she is a healer. So it's looking at, the adventures of Robin Hood. And in this book, it becomes the adventures of Maid Marian, healer of Sherwood Forest. And just taken from what she does in the series. This is a series, by the way, and I'll talk more about that shortly. Yeah, I'm going to go through a lot of these right now. What did you edit out of your book? Really wonderful question again. Originally, I had this book starting with Maid Marian in prison. She does get thrown into prison, unfortunately, and her looking back on how she met up with Robin before Robin comes in to save her. And it starts off with a chapter called Nightmare. That's the way I originally had it. And to me, when I looked at it, it was overall too dark. This is a high vibration, bright, fast moving book. It's an adventure book that has a lot of romance, some ideas of magic involved with the healing, and all of this going on. And so I got rid of that first chapter. And I started instead with Maid Marian literally meeting Robin in the first chapter and getting catapulted into his world. And then that story just runs from there. She still does get caught and thrown into prison, but it's not right off the bat so that it's dark and all consuming at the beginning. When she's in prison, we know that there's a resolution coming, that Robin is aware of her being there and he's coming after her. And it's that time in prison that gets her to wake up and realize, I've got to do something right now to make sure this never happens to me again. So she becomes self-empowered as well. So she never has to walk that path again. So it's a really important part of the book. But that is what I edited initially out of the book that really made the book flow. So let's see what else we have. What do you hope that readers will take away from your book? I really hope that people will take away the idea that no matter who you are, you have the ability to make a change, a difference in the world. And Marion, you know, prior to meeting Robin, was a healer. She was mending bones. You know, she was giving people salves for their wounds. She was trained by her mother to do all this. But it wasn't until Robin comes into her life and she, you know, starts down the path with him that she truly begins to see how she can make a difference simply by walking her own path. And by the end of that book, it is she that is going out to save Robin. And we literally see her at the end having to do a different kind of healing. She starts off with the traditional healing. And by the end, she is using laying on of hands healing, which is the kind of healing I use as a Reiki practitioner and healer. And so it would be called an energy healing. Robin has an arrow in him and she pulls it out and the blood is just everywhere. So she instantly puts her hands on him and the energy starts to flow. But because she is in the Middle Ages, the people don't understand that are watching her. So she quickly puts yarrow, which is a plant, into the wound. And that does staunch blood, but it is that with the energy healing that she does that brings about a change. So, you know, people in that time period would think of her as a witch, of course, and that's why she ultimately before was thrown into prison. But she now is walking her path and being very self-empowered and self-aware of what she can do to make a difference in that world. And that's what I want to make everyone aware of when you read the book, because you have that ability as well. All right, and let's see what else we have here as far as questions. Where can people who are interested in the book actually buy the book? Well, first I will send you once again to my website, carolweakland.com, carolweakland.com. And for the book, simply go to the book page. You have the Morgan of Avalon series, which I was just talking about. Two beautiful, you can call them twin flames, lovers that come together to create peace in a very war-torn country. That's a 3-book series. I'll talk about the other books shortly, but they're all available on that site. And then you can also go to the launch page for the Adventures of Maid Marian, Healer of Sherwood Forest as well. So really, really exciting. I'm really happy about that. And what I'd like you to know now, with this last comment, is there something more you would like to tell us, which I forgot to ask about? I just basically want to show the readers my other books. So I also write for children, and that would be the Dragon's Breath book. And Secrets of the Flower Fairies book. This is part of a series called the Magical Being series. The Dragon's Breath book talks about empowerment for children, how every child has a dragon friend or guide that looks after them. And we go into how that dragon actually can make that child feel better if they're having a bad day. They can just go to that dragon, and that dragon can help them realize the power that they have within themselves. And it's a wonderful book, and it just came out recently over last summer. Now, this book, The Secrets of the Flower Fairies, is about how, once again, it's about nature, about flowers. But when you actually look into a flower, how you can see a little face inside, and the idea that that's a fairy that has a special gift. And every flower fairy, every flower has its own gift. And by the end, it's asking the child, what are your gifts? This book won a silver medal at the Cover Awards in 2019, Secrets of the Flower Fairies. And then I also have a young adult book called Land of the Twilight Mist. That is an angel fantasy that takes place where I grew up in Northeast Ohio. And it's literally a place where you can go look at the lake in the story, see the forest in the story. I talked about that, how that plays into all my books. And it's just a very lovely book for young adults. The last thing I'd like to say, once again, I really want everyone to just take a moment and think about what you can do in times of challenge. There's a lot going on in the world right now that can make us feel, I always say going out into nature and just breathing the air, being with the trees, listening to the birds sing, seeing the animals that come into your visual range. This is all something here that can lift your spirit, make your heart sing. And if you want to learn more about that, you can check out my Nature Speak class on my website, or I also teach it on Udemy, and I teach a children's version of that on OutSchool. So thank you so much for offering me this opportunity to talk about my book, The Adventures of Maid Marian, Healer of Sherwood Forest, today in Belia. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great day.